Hi, and welcome to Talent Talks with Rekroot. I'm Kim, one of the co-founders, and in episode 1, we are joined with our other co-founder, Morgan, talking everything about recruiting in financial services. Hello, and welcome to the first podcast ever of Rekroot Talent Talk. I'm your co-host, Kim, one of the co-founders of Rekroot. And beside me is...
I'm Morgan, the other co-founder of Rekroot and co-host.
So we are so excited to start this off and kind of following in the trends. But one thing that we had noticed was, there really isn't, or we didn't notice that there was a great podcast out there specifically for talent talks in the financial services industry. Now we obviously recruit outside of that as well. So our hope is that we can help many areas of talent in different industries, but our roots and everything really always go back to financial services, Morgan. So we wanted to really host a podcast to interview influencers in the industry, interview experts, certainly be here for us to give you all tips on how just to bring phenomenal talent into this industry. And I think that really kind of takes us back to why we started Rekroot. So do you want to explain why we started Rekroot first?
Yeah. Recruiting in financial services and where Kim and I came from in terms of recruiting was very difficult. You're recruiting somebody to come in and be an entrepreneur and start on commission base. It was just really difficult to recruit in. And I think our industry maybe did it wrong in some ways, or maybe didn't do it as good as I think we could have. And so Kim and I really wanted to coach people and teach them how to recruit better, focusing on the quality of the candidate, focusing on the retention of our industry, things like that. And so when we started Rekroot, we really wanted to go out there and coach people how to recruit better.
And it's really morphed into something different. And we'll certainly talk about our path and everything along the way, but just wanted to first introduce us. And if you haven't met us before, it's very nice to meet you all. And we look forward to starting this journey, and bear with us. We've never done podcasts before. So everything's a learning mode.
Yeah.
So it's great. Great.
Yeah.
So let's start off first with, I guess, why would anybody want to listen to us?
I don't know.
Besides us being fun, all that fun stuff. But Morgan, do you want to talk a little bit about your career and how you got started in the industry?
I started, Kim recruited me into the business as a financial advisor. So when anybody's going through that discussion or that career conversation with one of us or one of our recruiters, very familiar. And then kind of morphed into moving into a recruiter and focused on the recruiting of financial advisors. And then we started Rekroot. So it was about I would say almost an 8, 9, 10-year journey of recruiting in financial services before we started Rekroot, at least for myself. And I think too, with this podcast, we can definitely, obviously focus on people that are recruiting these types of candidates, but also candidates to understand really where is the client coming from, where are people that recruit in this industry coming from, to kind of see both sides.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. I started in the business in 2007 and started off actually sitting at the front desk. And at the time I was like, whoa, is this what I want to be doing? But looking back, certainly hindsight's always 2020, right? But I learned so much about the business just on the operational side of things that it gave me a lot of extra confidence when I was recruiting, but also just the trust in the office that I started recruiting for and things like that. So
like big picture.
Yeah, it was definitely a big picture. And within about 3 months, started recruiting on campus as well as full-time representatives, and just loved the business, always loved recruiting. Prior to being in the financial services industry, I worked for a career builder and then a staffing firm. So always been something to do with recruiting. Not to go into too much about the background now, but, started in Chicago suburbs and then moved out to New York, started recruiting on Long Island, although lived in New York. So yes, we both did that reverse commute. That was fun. And came back to Chicago and then ultimately started Rekroot in 2015 with Morgan. So I will say the journey has had many ups and downs, a lot more ups than downs, I would say.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, it was just us two and that first hire that we had and everything. So our intention is to help out with talent, but also to help people as they're sitting here thinking about starting their own business. What are some things that we went through as well? So Morgan, what do you think are some unique aspects of recruiting in financial services, and really how do we excel as a team?
I would say that us as a team and us as Rekroot, I might answer the question a little bit differently, but when you're recruiting in financial services, you are actively sourcing and looking for candidates all the time. Nobody is ever coming to you and saying, I want to be a financial advisor. And if they are, we kind of pull up a red flag and say, I'm not sure. Why are they applying to this? Any recruiter, any leader in this industry would understand that. But outside of financial services, people are looking at resumes. People are looking at candidates that, apply. Our recruiters at Rekroot are always used to active sourcing. So they're out there looking for candidates. They're talking to passive candidates, talking to candidates that are interested. So I feel like at Rekroot, we definitely bring a different pipeline to our clients. I think we bring a different talent to our clients, and we're able to engage a lot of people from different backgrounds to different careers. So I think it's a little bit different.
One thing that was interesting is I was actually talking to a potential client of ours, and they're like, well, how do you get people to respond to us or respond to you and they don't respond to us? I'm like, well, one of the benefits of working with a company like Rekroot is they don't know who we're recruiting for just yet. And so you're not getting that stereotypical, oh, I don't want to work for an insurance company. I don't want to be in sales. I don't want to be in investments and things like that. So I think that's also kind of just a one leg up that we have.
We're able to deliver a different first impression for our clients versus going out there and just Googling X, Y, and Z company and finding what random people say about this company. We've done all the fact finding. We know who our clients are. We understand the retention. We understand their whole culture. And so we're able to explain that story versus the story you might read on the internet somewhere.
It allows us to go into a deeper discussion of the employee value proposition, the EVP that you'll hear us talk about. We have many coaches, and one of the coaches that we work with, Mr. Mike Ames, he always talks about the EVP, right? And that's just so important. And more so discussing what is it about the company and what is it about the opportunity and the growth versus the actual job itself, because that's going to attract people in a very different light. So, absolutely. So to give us a little street cred, more, I would say, how are our candidates doing for the ones that we place on the advisor agent side? Do you know?
We have a higher retention. So obviously, as Kim mentioned, we started in 2015. It's not like we can sit here and track 40 years of retention, but we can track from when we started recruiting advisors, which probably was closer to 2017. And that retention is about 4.5, 5 years average for all of the candidates we recruited. I think all the candidates we've got 200-300 plus. So if we look at all of those in our average retention, it's very good for this industry. So we're very proud of that retention. We focus on quality, not quantity. And we do feel like that retention does show it.
What about our average production?
Still calculating, but right now the average production is about 172, I think was the last number that we had in their first year. We are trying to break down first year and then first agent year, first advisor year, first calendar year, there's all different years. And
Yeah.
so we need to do a better job at Rekroot tracking that sort of stuff. But that means going back to our clients and getting that information from them. So it's a full-time job.
So to sum that one up, pretty high quality. They're
Mhm.
sticking around
And they're producing.
and they're producing.
Mhm.
And a big part of that is because we are so proactive. If you take a look at candidates out there, right? You got, let's just say out of 100 candidates, the first 20 will just always apply to roles. Everybody's talking to them, everything on that side, right? And then that 20 to 40% is kind of the hidden talent where if you don't reach out to them, they're not talking to you.
Mhm.
Right. And so if you look at that, that's where the recruit focus is. And that's where you're getting, everyone says, hey, I want to recruit people that are currently employed and
Mhm.
successful at what they do. Well, that's what our target is. Right. So we're able to do that. And then the last, 40 to 100, the 60%, they're just not looking at the time and it's going to be pretty hard to talk to
Right.
them anyway. So,
Right.
people are like, hey, how do you do that? Well, we have techniques and things like
Mhm.
that and tools that we're able to get in touch with people. But ultimately, it's because we're proactive.
Mhm.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, we will go through all of this stuff and all the different episodes that we have. But, like Harry Hoopus has always said, inspect what you expect, meaning we expect that we're going to have to do a lot of activity in order to reach those people. So we need to inspect, meaning how many people are we reaching out to on a daily basis and things like that. So there's many different techniques behind it. And ultimately it's about being consistent
Mhm.
and it's about truly doing activity and tracking it to understand what amount of work do you actually have to do in order to be
Mhm.
successful. So it's not easy.
And each market is different.
Each market,
Each industry. I mean, you think, I think a lot of times we went into financial services assuming, okay, well, we know it's difficult, right, to recruit someone on commission base. But then it's like you go to a client and they're like, I need a CFP, I need a CFA, I need them to have this, I need them to have this. Like, okay, well, now my pool is just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And so it's crazy. You can go from Minnesota where people respond, and then you go to like Florida, nobody responds. So you don't know until you get in there either. So then you almost have to kind of look at that activity per area, per role. And that's something we're willing to do.
And figure out a different tactic to reach out to people. Because there's always a way.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's talk about how do we stand out when it comes to recruiting? Do you think, Morgan, there's any tactics that we really do in order to stand out as a firm or even anything to give to our clients or people listening to the show? Maybe the one or two people right now. I'm just kidding. But is there any way to stand out, would you say, when it comes to recruiting?
I would say if we look at recruiting as a whole, meaning every industry, every company, and I know a lot of times our clients are like, oh, we're not using agency recruiters, we're not using third party. And I think we get put into that bucket at times. So when I answer this question, I'm going to compare us to those types of companies. I mean, obviously it's me and you running this company. So we can decide how many recs do we have open? How many recs does each recruiter hold? How many roles do we want to fill? And I think we really take our time with each client and each individual role. Now, is that going to make us, the next powerhouse agency? No, but that's not the point. The point is to make sure that we're delivering quality and our client enjoys the experience. And kind of going back to what Kim said with the employee value proposition, we want to make sure that's there even with the start of the conversation with us. So I don't know if it stands out, but it does make us different. You're going to be working with a recruiter that's handling 2, 3, 4 requisitions versus maybe 40. And so we really focus on those to try and get the quality, develop the candidate base, and really, become partners with our client.
Yeah. And then on the client side, say for instance, you're really focused on recruiting financial advisors, financial representatives. One of the biggest mistakes that we have seen in this industry is that recruiters are not educated enough about the role that they're trying to recruit for. And if you are in financial services, in a recruiter, you're primarily just recruiting for one role, which is the entry level, or sometimes, recruiters are focused on the experience side of things. But if you can't have a detailed conversation about the impact that people are making as financial advisors, how to build the business, and be able to handle objections, excuse me. It's going to, we highly recommend to take a pause and go back and relearn the industry. Because if you can't talk about it, how can you get somebody excited to come in and have a conversation? What are some things that you could do? Well, you could ask a rep if they, an advisor, rep, or, whatever it is that you call your agents and field staff in there, to bring a recruiter out with them on a day of meetings, or just be able to observe one meeting. That's on the recruiter side of things. Not everybody has recruiters, and we know that. Part of it too is managers just not having enough time, or not having the want to put the time in. Time blocks are one of the most critical things that you can do in order to really achieve success
with recruiting.
Yeah, with recruiting, like you have to have a recruiting conversation every single day. So we speak many times a year on recruiting, and if anybody walks away from our talks and they're in management, here's what we want you to walk away with: have a recruiting conversation every day. Every day. Ask somebody for a referral. Tell somebody that you're looking to bring on people. Even if you're only looking to bring on 4 people a year, 2 people a year, it does not matter, because that's going to allow you to be more selective when you're sitting there talking to people.
And everybody's going to know you're recruiting.
Exactly.
If you keep bringing it up, even if you bring it up to the waiter at the restaurant you always go to, they're going to know you're recruiting. And so they're always probably going to start to kind of understand, hey, this gentleman that comes in every day is a recruiter, like he's recruiting people. Now you got people out there kind of looking for you.
And then ultimately be that connector, right? And so even if you may not have that opportunity for that person, or maybe they're in a completely different industry, think about all the resources that you have at your fingertips, but you have to think about it. For example, if you have people in your firm or your agency that directly work with hospitals, and maybe you have someone who just graduated with the healthcare, organizational degree. That's probably not the right degree I'm thinking of, but you know what I'm getting at. Can you connect them with somebody at a hospital in the healthcare industry? And then that way they're going to remember, hey, they're probably working with a financial advisor in one time or another. You were able to connect them, right? So think about beyond just yourself, but also how can you do that? And the other thing I want people to take away is every single time you're in front of somebody, one of 3 things can happen. Number one, they can become a center of influence, right? Meaning they can refer you to business, they can refer you to other recruits, candidates, whatever it might be. Number 2, they can become a client. Maybe they've done financial planning before, maybe they haven't, maybe they haven't had the right financial plan set in place. And then the final one is certainly they could become a candidate. So think of the 3 C's: COI, candidate, client. Every single person that you're in front of, you can have a major impact. So we kind of digress there, but you know, a little bit of nuggets here today in the inaugural podcast that we have going on. This is quick, but our hope is that we can have, anywhere from a few takeaways each session to certainly introducing, more talent to the industry. We have a lot of work to do as an industry. We have a lot of people retiring. We need to bring in great talent. So hopefully if this could even recruit one really great person, I call it a win.
Yeah, for sure.
So thank you for spending time with us today. We will be doing this monthly, and we will be having people come in so we can interview them, whether they're legends in the industry, whether they're just doing something really cool when it comes to talent. But we want to bring some, really great things to you on the regular that you can take away and bring in your own business. Would you add anything else?
No, we're open to feedback. So if there's stuff you want us to cover in terms of recruiting, like Kim said, starting a business, anything that you can think of, we're here to kind of explore and look at those topics. We look forward to continuing this.
Thanks.
Bye. Till next time.
Bye.